Denzel Jordan claims his ex coerced their child into adding hair remover to his fiancee's shampoo and staining her wedding dress with grape juice. Tasha Jordan says her daughter acted out because her father is marrying another woman.
Okay, Mr. Jordan and Ms. Carter, you are suing Ms. Jordan for $8,500 in property damage and emotional distress. Let me hear from you first, Mr. Jordan.
Yes, so I'm here today with my fiancée, Nia, and we are suing for property damage and emotional distress, which was unfortunately done by my daughter, Ava, and orchestrated by my psychopath of an ex-wife, Tasha.
Okay, let's try to watch the incendiary language, because that's your daughter, right?
Yes.
That's her mother, right?
Yes.
She probably loves her, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, understood.
Okay, so what happened?
So we co-parent Ava, and we do it on a bi-weekly basis.
Has that been working?
It's been so-so.
All right, so tell me what happened in this case.
So the last time Ava was at my home with Nia, we had a date night planned between her and I. We were going to the theater and have dinner, things like this. But because of the change in behavior that I've noticed
Well, let's talk about the change in behavior. When did you notice that happening, Nia? Let me talk to Nia a second. When did you notice that happening?
Yes, Your Honor. I started noticing probably shortly after we got engaged that Ava's behavior has been changing. She's normally very calm, sweet girl. We become best friends.
You think she was upset about the engagement?
Perhaps.
Okay. Did you ever talk to her about that?
Well, yes. In fact, I started noticing little behavior at the very beginning. I didn't mention it first to my fiancé because I wanted to address it with her one-on-one since we had a very close relationship. I noticed she was deleting stuff off of my cell phone. She
like what stuff?
Meetings, appointments. She was turning off
Okay, first of all, how does she get your hands on your cell phone? How does she know your code?
Well, yes, that's how close we've been. I'm practically...
My husband and I have the same code. That's a secret to a happy marriage. However, so did you ever confront her to see if she was doing that?
I did.
And what did she say?
She said she wasn't.
On the night that you guys go out, you were starting to tell me that you had sat her down to talk to her?
Yes. So because of these, changes in behavior from Ava, before we left, we decided to sit her down and have a little pep talk with her, let her know just to behave for Kayla.
How old is she?
She's 9.
Okay, so I presume there was a babysitter. You weren't?
Yeah.
Correct,
okay.
Yeah.
And then go on.
We had a babysitter, Kayla. This is one of our family friends that we have babysit Ava.
And so you tell her, we want you to behave. You come home, and what happens?
Yep, so Nia decides to hop in the shower to get freshened up before bed.
And why don't you tell me what happens in the shower?
Yes, Your Honor. I go into the shower, I'm washing my hair, and I notice this really strong chemical odor. And I touch my hair, it's kind of burning, and just clumps of hair start to fall out.
That joke from the judge lands, but underneath it is a serious issue. Nia says Ava had access to her phone because they were close, even sharing the same code or having access to it. That matters because it shows the relationship between Nia and Ava was not always hostile. According to Nia, they had trust, closeness, and enough familiarity that Ava could get into her phone. But then, the behavior allegedly shifts. Deleted meetings, deleted appointments, subtle interference. In a courtroom, this kind of detail helps establish a pattern. It is not the main damage claim yet, but it supports the idea that Ava's behavior was escalating. The judge is also probing credibility here. If a 9-year-old had access to phones, invitations, shampoo, and a wedding dress, the judge is naturally going to ask, where were the boundaries? Where was the supervision? And when did the adults realize this was becoming serious?
And I start screaming, and Denzel comes, I go into my closet and notice I had my wedding dress hanging from the alterations earlier that day, and there was grape juice also all over my dress.
Did you folks confront your daughter?
Yes, we definitely confronted her because, process of elimination, we kind of logically knew it was her, but she was very quiet. and subdued and didn't really deny.
Well, were
or
you quiet
confirm.
and subdued? Because if I came home and my wedding dress had grape juice and there were chemicals in my, I'd be worried that I needed to call the authorities. And, that's like pretty bad. So were you guys calm and subdued, or was somebody reading Ava the Riot Act?
I was upset for sure. At first, I thought it might have been Kayla just because of the nature of the damage, but it didn't make any sense.
You thought it might be the babysitter?
Yeah.
Oh, that person shouldn't be your babysitter if you think that was the babysitter. What do you mean, the nature of the damage?
Well, I don't even know how Ava got a hold of hair removal products.
All right, so what do you guys do with Ava that night? Like, what do you do? What happens?
We gave her a stern talking to, definitely.
Stern talking to?
Yes. We just wanted to get the truth.
Why
from her.
are you suing Mom?
Because she orchestrated that.
What makes you
and she
say
knows
that?
it.
This is not true,
So,
Your Honor.
I overheard a FaceTime call that happened between Ava and Tasha. And I heard Tasha giving her words of affirmation, like, yes, you must hurt people before they hurt you.
Wait, I'm sorry, you hear that and then you go off on the town to have it paint the town red? You don't think that maybe, you ought to stick around and see what's happening and find out what's happening, walk in the room and say, what are you telling her?
Well, to be fair, Judge,
You know
Your
what,
Honor,
hold on. Let me hear from you.
Notice how quickly Judge Milan stops the back and forth here. She has heard enough from Denzel to understand the accusation, but now she wants the person at the center of it, Tasha. That is good judging. She is not going to let the plaintiff narrate the entire case without giving the defendant a chance to explain. But the facts are already troubling. If Denzel overheard a FaceTime call where Tasha gave Ava emotional permission to hurt someone first, then Tasha's own words could become the bridge between Ava's actions and Tasha's liability. And that is why this moment matters. The court is not only asking whether damage happened, the court is asking whether Tasha's statements were careless, reckless, or intentionally manipulative. What do you think? Can a parent say something in emotion and still be responsible when a child takes it literally?
Are you aware of any behavioral changes?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what were they from? What do you think was going on?
Ever since the divorce, my daughter has been talking about how she's been angry at Dad. I tell her, you have the right to feel that way. I'm more of an emotionally supporting parent, but at the same time, I'm strict, a little bit of both. And so I'll just tell her, it's okay to feel, I don't want her to just dismiss, because that's not healthy either. But also I didn't want this divorce, and, he sort of just up and left. So I can't blame her for feeling the way she did, when your dad just disappears.
But that happens. And as hurt as we may be, when we don't want a relationship to end, you love your daughter, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and you want her to have a healthy upbringing where she loves both her parents and both her parents love her, right?
Yes.
Regardless of how much he hurt you, is he a good dad to her?
Sometimes he can be a bit emotionally dismissive. That's one of the reasons we got a divorce.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. What happened that night? Did you talk to your daughter that night?
Yes, we FaceTime. And
you did have a FaceTime conversation with her.
We did.
Tell me about that conversation.
So she FaceTimed me. She said she wanted to pour grape juice on the dress, and I was like, you have the right to feel. She said she wanted to put hair removal in her shampoo, and then I had said that someone can't hurt you if you hurt them first. I was speaking out of emotion.
You really said that?
I was speaking out of emotion.
John, please stop. You really said that?
I was upset at something totally different, and I was.
Wait, you told your daughter, they can't hurt you if you hurt them first? You counseled your daughter to hurt someone?
I didn't mean it literally.
Well, what else did you say in that FaceTime conversation?
And then she also told me how she wanted to rip the cards, and I had.
What cards are we talking about?
The invitations.
Hold on. What happened with the invitations?
Yes, Your Honor. We found about 50 out of the 75 of our wedding invitations ripped up and in Ava's toy chest.
How did you how did you get her hands on them? Like, how are the invitations not in your control? I don't get it.
They were on the kitchen table, Your Honor.
Oh, it wasn't time for them to go out yet?
They're about to go out. They were save the dates.
What did she ask you about the invitations?
She said that she wanted to rip them up, and I told her, you have the right to feel that way, and you can express in your own way. And I guess she misinterpreted that and actually acted up on it.
The ripped invitations matter because they show this was not one impulsive act. We now have multiple alleged acts: damaged shampoo, grape juice on the wedding dress, and dozens of wedding invitations torn up. That pattern supports the plaintiff's argument that this was targeted at the wedding itself and at Nia's place in Denzel's life. Tasha keeps saying she did not mean it literally, but Judge Milan is focused on how a child would hear those words. Adults often forget that children do not process emotional statements the same way adults do. If a parent says, "You can express yourself in your own way," after a child specifically says she wants to destroy wedding materials, a child may hear permission. The legal issue is not only intent, it is foreseeability. Should Tasha have known Ava might act on those words?
I didn't mean literally, Your Honor. I apologize.
She's 9. Ava, can I ask you what happened?
Well, I wanted to FaceTime my mom because I felt like Dad was spending more time with Nia, and I know we spent a lot of time together, and I liked that, but I didn't like how they left me alone, and I wanted to talk to
You didn't want them to leave you behind that night? Okay.
No. And I FaceTimed my mom, and I told her how I felt, and she said, I told her how I was angry at the moment. I told her I wanted to do these things, and she said, yes, you can do them.
That's what you heard, right? Yes, you can do them. Sure sounded that way, right? What happened after you did them?
They sat me down and they told me to do, if I asked me if I could do that, if I did that, and I just sat there. I don't
You didn't,
know.
Did you ever say you did it?
No.
Did you do it? Come on, we know the answer. Don't look to her for that. You can answer. Yeah, we know you did it. And you say you did it because your mom was telling you it was okay to do.
And I thought that meant I could do it, but now that I see it's wrong, it was wrong.
You knew it was wrong then too, right? Yeah. You knew you shouldn't pour grape juice on her wedding dress and rip up invitations, and much less put hair removal in a shampoo bottle. I'm a little bit concerned.
Your Honor, I offered to pay for the wedding dress and the invitations, but he said no. He was angry at me.
That's not what I'm concerned about. I know that's what the subject of the lawsuit is, and I will take care of that in a moment. I am a little bit concerned that we have a child who's going through difficulty in a divorce, and that you think that the right thing to do, of course you acknowledge her feelings, but when a child is telling you, I feel like doing X, oh yeah, no one can hurt you if you hurt them first. You are literal. See, normally, this is how it would work. There's a child. The child's a child. The child's in your custody. You're the parent. Parents aren't usually held responsible for a child's action unless they put a weapon in their hand. They did, they have to have done something really major, okay? If he's taking care of the child at that point, then that's his disciplinary issue at that point. However, in this case, you're literally giving her permission to do these things. A 9-year-old tells you that, and your answer should be, no, honey, we don't do that. We have our feelings, and we'll talk to Dad about our feelings, but we don't do these things you're talking about, because that would be really mean, and we're not mean. So we're going to find another way to express our anger. Why don't we sit down and write a letter? That's what a mother does. You don't sit there and say to her, yes, have at it.
Your Honor, she's
it's
never
one
done
thing
this
for the
before.
feelings to be legitimate. Of course, you legitimize a feeling. It's another thing to say, and therefore we think that you should blind someone, potentially.
Your Honor, she's never acted like this before. Like, she's never done something outrageous.
Well, I am concerned about how she's acting, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm really concerned about how you're acting. I'm really concerned that you would put the tools in your daughter's hands to do something like this instead of nipping it in the bud immediately the minute she says it, it comes out of her mouth. How is it that you're not coaching her through her anger as opposed to saying, hey, yeah, let's do it?
Well, I didn't mean it that way.
Well, but that's exactly how the 9-year-old heard it. And I don't think you're a stupid woman.
No.
No,
Your
I think
Honor.
you knew that maybe the 9-year-old would hear it that way, which
But I didn't
kind of
think-
makes me really worried when you're using your 9-year-old as a tool. to hurt him and her.
That's not my intention. I actually still have feelings for him, Your Honor.
Yeah, I know you still have
don't-
feelings, so that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Okay.
That line cuts straight to the emotional heart of the case. Judge Milan is saying the quiet part out loud. This is not just about damaged property. It is about a child being placed in the middle of unresolved adult pain. Tasha admits she still has feelings for Denzel, and the judge immediately connects that to the behavior. That does not mean having feelings is wrong. Divorce hurts. Rejection hurts. Watching an ex move on can be brutal, but the courtroom message is clear. Your child cannot become your messenger, your weapon, your revenge plan, or your emotional outlet. Ava should have been protected from the conflict, not recruited into it. And this is where viewers may split. Some may sympathize with Tasha's pain, but sympathy does not erase responsibility. The judge is demanding adult accountability.
About, hey, because I got to tell you, this is some pretty vicious stuff that she did. I mean, if my child had done that, I would want to make sure that my child was in therapy, because that is very destructive behavior. And somewhere along the line of raising her, her gut at 9, because she's not 2, she's 9, should be telling her, I shouldn't do this. And yet, you're overriding her gut and telling her to do it and encouraging her to do it.
Your Honor, I actually tried to get her counseling before we got a divorce, but he refused to get any counseling for his anger and control issues.
For his anger, okay, he's not your problem anymore,
Yeah.
okay? We're here because a 9-year-old voiced 9-year-old whims, and you didn't nip it in the bud. You encouraged it. You put your daughter in the horrible position of having to be in my courtroom and testify about her behavior, okay? You think she wants to be here?
No.
No, she doesn't. But you did this to her. You really did. And if you want to get her therapy, it has nothing to do with him. Forget him. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. The only role he has is being her dad. If you want her to have therapy, have her have therapy. Tell me the reasoning behind her not being in therapy.
It costs a lot of money, Your Honor.
Okay, does insurance cover it?
No.
Okay, does the school have counselors that you can talk to?
Yes, but it also costs money.
In school?
Yes, because she's in a private school. I've been paying for her to go to a private.
Right, but isn't that part of what you're paying for already?
That's school counseling. That's not really like therapy.
No, I know it's not therapy, but it's better than nothing. It's better than what you're doing. You have anything else to say for yourself?
I have been trying to be more strict with her because she has been acting out at school as well. And I have looked into different therapy sources for myself because I know I'm going through some things too.
I think you need therapy too. And I think that you need to talk to somebody, because it's one thing for a 9-year-old to do vicious things. There's time still. But you're an adult, and you're the adult in her life, and she's looking to you for her cues. And your cues cannot be revenge. That can't be your cues to her. No matter how much he hurt you, because for her sake, you have to move on. You cannot play this petty game in order to get back at him and harm her the way you've harmed her.
I understand, Your Honor.
I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of the $3,500 for the actual damages and an additional $2,000 in punitive damages for your conduct. And that's $5,500 for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
So here is where the court landed. Denzel Jordan and Nia Carter came in seeking $8,500 for property damage and emotional distress after Ava damaged wedding-related property and put hair remover in shampoo. Judge Milan focused on the actual financial damages and, more importantly, on Tasha's conduct during the FaceTime call. The judge found that Tasha's words went beyond simply validating her daughter's feelings and crossed into encouraging destructive behavior, especially because Ava was only 9 years old and clearly interpreted her mother's words as permission. The final ruling was for the plaintiffs: $3,500 in actual damages and $2,000 in punitive damages, for a total of $5,500. The broader takeaway is powerful. Parents can feel hurt, angry, and betrayed, but they cannot use a child as a weapon in adult conflict. Ava needed guidance, not permission to retaliate, and Tasha's biggest consequence may not be financial. It may be realizing how deeply this affected her daughter. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.